Welcome to the Brand Wise podcast, where we talk about the big branding moves that business owners are making and the why behind it. I'm your host, Jess Freeman, here to help you be wise and be bold. Very excited to be chatting with my friend AnnMarie Rose today. AnnMarie and I have been online friends for, I don't even know now, like I've lost count, 8 years.
2016 maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Long time.
So very excited to be chatting with you today. Thank you for being here. To get us started, tell us, about you and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm an online business scaling strategist. So I mainly specialize in helping coaches, consultants, and experts who are at that point of wanting to scale. So from the outside looking in, you are a success by all accounts. You're probably able to pay yourself. Like, it's a full-time business that you're running, even if it's, you're doing it in conjunction with some other things, but you're feeling kind of stretched thin. Like, that you're meant to impact more people, generate more income, and also not have to work 10 times harder to do that, or even 2 times harder to do that. But you just can't quite see the path to get there. That's where I come in and help with the business model, refining it, making it more scalable, as well as implementing more scalable sales and marketing systems. One of those being paid workshops. Not all of my clients do paid workshops, but a lot of them do, because it is a great way to scale your sales process.
Love it. Okay, so we are talking about paid workshops today, and I want to start with why you like free workshops, or not free workshops, but why you like paid workshops more than free workshops.
So I like paid anything these days more than free anything these days. So that kind of blanket statement, first and foremost, is because people are so busy and there is so much free content out there that it gets ignored. Much of it gets ignored. You can put out the best free mini course in the world or the best free training in the world, and you might get a lot of signups, a lot of opt-ins, so you might get more people on your email list, which is fantastic, but how many of those people are actually opening those versus getting distracted by the next Instagram post or a toddler running in the room or whatever it is? There's just so much external input coming at us these days that free, because you haven't put any stake in for free, there's not any sense of urgency to consume it and therefore get a result and therefore build trust with your brand. So that's why my preference, for my own brand, my only freebies are of a quiz nature. Sometimes I call them a tool or whatever. But that's because you kind of have to interact with it before you ever become one of my leads. So it's a shortcut around that process. And then the rest of my lead magnets, so to speak, are low ticket paid things like paid workshops. So that's one reason that I love paid workshops more than I like free. And then specifically with paid workshops, I say it comes down to when people pay, they pay attention. So you're going to see a slightly lower, I say slightly lower, sometimes it's 50% less signups, but ultimately what happens on the back end, if you're selling something during the workshop, which I highly recommend doing, you're going to see more sales than you would from free. I've broken this down 15 different ways over on my Instagram, and sometimes pulling numbers off the top of my head is not my strong suit. But if you see, you might get 100 signups for a free workshop, but you get 50 for a paid workshop, while your show-up rates for a paid workshop are going to be 50 to 90%, where for a free workshop, you're looking at sometimes only 15%, sometimes even less than that. And then conversion rates from people who've already paid. So when you're selling something on the back end and I always typically only look at people who show up live, but if you have a great replay sequence, you're going to get people who are consuming the replay and also purchasing. Your conversion rate on the back end of a paid workshop is something like somewhere between 30 and 50%. And this is stats from me and my clients who've all tested this strategy, versus free, you're looking at somewhere between 5 to 15% conversion rate of the people who show up live. And remember, only about 15 to 20% who register are likely to show up live.
I mean, those are some solid numbers. Yeah.
I was able to, I did pull them off. If I had to do the math to give the specific numbers, that's where I might start to get a little jump.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But what do you say to people who are like, what about giving free value? And you're telling me to sell this workshop and sell on the back end of the workshop, pitching them to the next thing. And, but that's so much selling and I'm supposed to give free value and
Yep.
da, 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 da. Like, what do you say to that?
Well, there's still so much opportunity out there on the internet to give free value, whether it's in responding to people's posts about things and sharing your heart that way. The content that I'm sharing to draw people into my workshop is free value. I'm sharing, coming up here soon, I'm going to be hosting one on workshops called the Workshop. And all the content I'm putting out there is free value around the topic of paid workshops. Those number breakdowns showing you the difference, different topic ideas, all kinds of stuff that is free value that I could probably, put into a PDF and put behind an opt-in form and people would opt in for it. But I'm just giving it away and then saying, okay, if this is something that you want to implement for your business, join me for this workshop, charging $97. Sometimes I've charged $27, sometimes $97. Like, that's the range that works really well for my audience. It's somewhere between $27 and $97. If I go any lower than $27, people tend to not show up. But every audience is a little bit different. So the other thing, the way I teach paid workshops, is the way you are delivering value during the workshop is absolutely worth paying for. Like, people are not just coming and getting some nice information. They're like, great, I'm glad I know that now. They leave saying, great, I'm glad I did that now. So they're actually getting something done, where if you had given it away in a PDF or even a free training, they're not as likely to have sat down and actually done the thing that you're asking them to do. So for example, in that workshop that I just mentioned, the workshop, the people who attend leave knowing their right fit workshop topic. They've nailed it right then and there. They have an idea of how they want to start promoting their workshop in a way that works for them and their season of life, and a couple other things. So they're leaving with things done, decisions made that they wouldn't have made otherwise, or that they may have really gone around in circles if it was just left up to them just consuming my free content and trying to make those decisions. They would have read it and said, oh, that's got me thinking about some nice things, but now I'm on to the next post or whatever. So the way that you're delivering value through your workshop itself is providing a quick win to people that's absolutely worth paying for it. They're going to show up and they're going to get that quick win because they paid.
Makes sense. So we have to reframe it. This isn't just like my high level workshop where I'm going to like touch on the basics and then hope that you join the program for like the actual information. We actually have to give them value.
Yep. You're actually helping them get something done. I always say you want to give them a quick win that prepares them for whatever your bigger offer is. A lot of times people don't know what they don't know, and you're the expert. Like, anyone listening to this podcast, you're an expert at what you do. And so the problem that's top of mind for your ideal client may not be the root of the problem they need to solve. So a paid workshop gives you a really great setting for you to help them get a quick win related to the problem that is top of mind for them, and then help them see how they need a bigger solution to help solve the full problem. So if you're, say, a dietitian who helps toddler moms who have picky eaters, they might be thinking, my kid's not eating whatever I fixed for dinner, it's getting so frustrating. So you're going to draw them into a workshop that's about no-fail, well-balanced toddler meals. And then I do have a toddler, but I'm certainly not an expert in the toddler seat. So I don't know what the root of the issue necessarily would be there. Maybe it's communication about food in your house, or the way that they're being introduced to foods. So you have a whole program on food introduction, introduction to certain foods and communication around foods. And so then you that's what your program's about. So then you're giving that language, and you're sharing, okay, now that you know these few things, here's the real root of the issue and what we're going to solve during this program.
I love that example. I think we get really caught up in just the high level free workshop. So thank you for laying out the example of going deeper. Now, part of the reason I wanted to talk about paid workshops with you is because on this podcast, we talk about rebranding, repositioning, niching down. And you were like, people should be using paid workshops to kind of test niching down. Why do you think paid workshops are a good way to test out like a niche or even a topic within a niche?
Well, because I'm a business strategist first, and so I help my clients who are oftentimes going through something similar, right? Because anymore, if you're not getting specific, you're getting ignored. Unless you are Oprah, who's been around for years and years and has the money to put behind getting in front of everybody, it's really, really difficult to get the traction that you want without the specificity that comes with quote unquote niching down. We can call it niching down, we can call it getting specific. But I know, so that's something I work on a lot of times with my clients, is just, even if it's just getting specific on the front end with what I call like a welcome mat. So you're kind of known for this thing, it's what brings people into your world, but you can help with a lot of other things, but it's not, you don't lead with all the things. Am I never gonna attract clients like that ever again? And so what's that gonna do to my business? And so it can be really a scary process, and to just, go through a full website redesign and messaging and revamp all your offers to focus on a very specific niche all at once can be overwhelming to your nervous system, frankly. So what you could do, and what I've had clients do in the past, is run a paid workshop. Now this is only gonna work if you either, one of two things. You have people in your existing audience who fit into that niche. So if you're making a full 180 pivot and trying to target an entirely new audience, or do something wildly different, like if you're a nutritionist and now you wanna coach nutritionists, this wouldn't necessarily work unless you have a big network of nutritionists, dietitians that you're working with already. I know those are different things, but you know what I mean. But it will work if you are, say, the go-to dietitian for 18 and under, and you want to specialize in toddler nutrition. This would work. Where you can run a paid workshop specifically targeting the niche that you're thinking on becoming known for and really focusing on, and see, are ideal clients showing up to this? Is this something that I'm really enjoying talking about? Does this feel right in my body? And get those clues before you go all in, and then you're not like, you haven't paid $10K, $20K for a full rebrand, overhauled everything, and said, I actually don't love this direction I went. And and all you need to do is run a 1 to 2 hour paid workshop and see, am I loving this direction? And then if the answer is yes, and you're finding that you're attracting the right people into your world with that topic, then you run with it.
So if they're just testing and they're like, I just want to see if I like talking to about toddlers and whatever, would you recommend not necessarily like having an upsell at the back end? Because like, what if they've, talked to these people, whatever, and then they're like, crap, like I set up this whole like toddler program and I actually don't like it, and I just want to like scratch it after this workshop. Like,
Sure.
What do you?
So it's funny, I've actually done this when I was deciding if I wanted to focus more on talking about paid workshops. I ran a workshop on workshops, and then I just sold my normal mastermind program at the end of it. So it was like, I didn't have a new offer necessarily. I just was like, I knew it still was relevant for a pool of people in my audience. So, and that particular topic, anyone who was going to show up wanting to know more about that particular topic was probably in a place, or there was at least going to be a percentage of people who were in a place that were right for my deeper work. So if you are a dietitian who specializes in nutrition for kids under 18, and you want to host a toddler-specific paid workshop, and you have some type of one-to-one service that you provide, there's no reason you can't just pitch that for the toddler parents, because I'm assuming you'd work with the parents on how to, like, you're probably not going on Zoom and stuff with 2-year-olds. That would be quite an interesting
chaos.
experience. That would be chaos. So you could still pitch the thing that you're already offering, just position it for that audience. That's one thing you could do. If like deep down the only reason I haven't gone all in on this niche is because I'm worried that I won't have enough people who want this, but you have an idea for an offer on your heart, you could absolutely pre-sell it during your workshop. And you could say, I've had clients do this, pre-sell things that aren't, I have a client doing this right now who's pre-selling something that's not going to be released until mid to end May. But she knows, like, this isn't the first time, she's created a program or created an offer. So she knows she can deliver it. She's an expert. She's got 25 years experience in the topic that she's covering. So we know I'm not a fan of the, like, just sell the thing and then hopefully it comes together. No. Like, if you're listening to this and you're a fan of just, like, you're someone who follows through on your word. So, but you could absolutely pre-sell something where you're like, this has been on my heart. Here's what it is. Here's what the 5 bullet points of what it's going to include. Here's what you're going to get out of it. And here's the pilot price point. If you sign up now, you could absolutely do that. So
Yeah,
kind
I
of
like
go either
that.
direction.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned doing this, like getting the right people, see, that kind of thing. How do we make sure that we are getting the right people? Now, obviously, like if we're doing a workshop on picky eating for toddlers, like someone who's not a parent is not going to just like randomly pay $97 and show up.
Correct.
But more so, how do we get the people that are more like that are going to be more willing to pay for our services or products, and not just like, I'm just wanting this $97 thing and then nothing else.
Right. So a couple things here. And also, I'll add on, you didn't necessarily ask this, but I will add, I love the workshop component because I do sell some of my workshops on demand, the recordings. But usually what we're doing is we're hosting the workshop live initially. So you get a feel for who's there. And especially when I just saw somebody post the other day that they did a free workshop that had something like 50 signups. And I think they said 5 people showed up live and only 1 had their camera on. Very different experience when it's paid. We got a lot of cameras on. We got a lot of nodding heads. We got a lot of note taking because they paid to be there. So you can tell immediately, okay, this is an engaged person. I mean, I'm projecting because like that's my ideal client is like a head nodder and a note taker. That's the kind of client I am. So not to say I never have my camera off on calls. Sometimes I do, but it's just that feels good to me. That's typically what I pour in when I'm showing up somewhere. So I notice that paid tends to attract more of that engaged person. So you can tell just the energy of it. It's more ideal clients, and doing it live gives you the space. So if you have a bunch of people kind of like dead face on there, that's a good clue that you're like, okay, maybe this isn't the right crowd for me. Let me try a new topic. So and again, you haven't rebranded, you haven't done all the things yet, so it's okay, and you can try things out. How do we make sure we get the right people on? Your topic's going to do that for you. So this is where the specificity really comes in. So if it's, 3 easy to make toddler, no-fail toddler meals, well-balanced toddler meals, that's very specific. Maybe it's even a week of no-fail toddler meals or how to toddler-proof your pantry or no-fail, whatever it is. But that's very specific, and you're going to attract a specific type of person who's looking for a specific outcome and has a specific problem, rather than the 3 principles to getting your kids to eat healthier meals. That's a bit more general, right? So the people coming into the space in the first place, like I'm a toddler mom. If you said getting kids to eat more well-balanced meals, I'm not sure if you're talking about my 10-year-old who's involved in 3 extracurriculars, so we're trying to figure out what to feed them as we're, shuttling them around to different things. But I have a toddler, so if you say a week of easy to make, well-balanced toddler meals that your toddler won't refuse, I'm like, I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm interested. And specifically, if you tell me I can make them in 20 minutes or less, like, I'm there. So like you're dealing, who you're dealing with because of the topic you put out there. And then the second part of that question was, how do we know we're attracting people who are going to be willing to pay for your bigger services rather than just a $97 workshop? Some people are just going to pay for the $97 workshop, but not everybody. What that really comes down to is the pitch, and you really using the pitch to expose them to the root of the problem. So in this instance, like we talked about, or I gave the example of, and again, I'm not an expert in this, but if it is how you're communicating about food and the way you're introducing different foods to your toddler that is the root of the picky eating issue, teaching me to make 7 meals in less than 20 minutes that my toddler won't refuse isn't necessarily solving the root of that issue. So then while I'm happy to have my next week of meals figured out, now I'm kind of like, okay, well, I guess I have to rinse and repeat these 7 meals. And my
Forever
kid,
and ever.
if we go to a restaurant, if we go to my parents' house, if we go wherever, we might still run into the picky eating issue. But if you're telling me that what it comes, like the real framework to solving picky eating for the long haul is communication about food and introduction to food. I love how I've just totally made this up. There's probably some dietitians who specialize in toddlers who are like totally wrong, or that's crazy that she thought of this, because that is.
You're like, what are you talking about?
I don't know either way. Let me know. Find me on Instagram. Let me know if I'm totally out of left field here. and your program solves that, the person who's really committed to resolving the issue for good is going to be willing. It's the committed person. So they've already expressed a level of commitment to solving the problem because they paid to be there and they showed up. Or, and I get this pretty frequently, where people will say, I can't make it live, but I know I need this topic right now, so I'm so excited for the replay. They'll literally email me that. And then, they'll email me after to let me know what they thought of it. So when people pay, again, they pay attention, they're committed. So you're going to naturally attract a more committed person because they paid.
Yes.
But how many free things have you signed up for because you thought, that's interesting, but you're not necessarily committed to learning the thing, resolving the issue. It's about that issue resolution that's really key here. I can sign up for a bunch of free things because I'm kind of interested in the thing, but am I really committed to that issue being resolved? Maybe not. And so therefore, am I ever really going to consume that information? Maybe not. But I will sign up for something paid because I'm really committed to resolving that thing, and then take a next step to work deeper because I now understand what is involved with resolving that issue fully.
And side note, if you haven't caught on, AnnMarie and I are both toddler moms. So
Yes.
if anybody wants to do this paid workshop, I think we'll both be there.
Yeah. My kid would, if we let him, he would live on lollipops and cookies. We do get he did eat carrots and things like that last night, and thank goodness for smoothies, because that's a good way to hide some veggies for your kids. But yeah, we're like, if anyone wants to do this paid workshop, we're there.
We're there. Okay, so I'm curious if you have any examples you can share of clients, not even in this niche, but just who've used paid workshops to kind of test a niche or a new topic or something, and how they went about it. Did it work well?
Yep.
Give us a little mini case study.
So I have one who's in the process. I got to double check and see where her enrollments are right now. But she is a mindset expert who's been in over 3 decades of experience, doing mindset work, mainly focusing on women business owners. And mindset, women business owners, you might think that's a specific enough niche. Not anymore. Not in 2025, it's not.
Nope.
So she's really been trying to nail, is it team dynamics that I really come in and support with? Is it money mindset? What is my in with this ideal client? And so she just hosted one that was more focused on money mindset specifically. What is your mindset costing you in your business? And I can't remember the exact title of the workshop, but that was the idea of come in, find out what your areas of your parts of your subconscious are actually costing you in business, and then let's discuss how to rewire that so that it can make you more money. And she ended up having somewhere between 24 and 27 signups. And then myself personally, this is how I decided to talk a lot more about paid workshops in the first place. Was hosting a paid workshop about paid workshops. And because in the past, so in 2020, especially because what I do is very kind of big picture business consulting, we're transforming your whole business in the course of 12 months is my bread and butter. But that's a big topic and a big commitment, and there's lots that goes into that. And so calling my people into my world with that alone, or just talking about, you want to scale into high multi 6, even 7 figures without feeling stretched thin, that's, again, not specific enough. So I need to be speaking more to the specific problems that are top of mind from that with that particular client. And in 2020, I started to go that direction with talking about quizzes. And I realized, what I did was I hosted big launches, and I spent a lot of money, multiple 5 figures on ads to get people into those launches. And I realized I attracted a lot of beginners who it wasn't as fulfilling for me to work with beginners, who were just getting their very first lead magnet set up. And there's lots and lots of amazing coaches and consultants and strategists who are fabulous at working with people who are they have that business idea and they need help taking those first baby steps. That's not my zone of genius. That's not my favorite space to play in. I would rather take all the data that's stretching you thin right now and hack away at the things that aren't working and lean more, refine the things that are working. So I spent kind of a year focused on that niche. Now I'm like, man, I didn't know. I wish I would have known paid workshops at the time. And because I could have just hosted a paid workshop on quizzes and seen pretty quickly, like, okay, I'm not loving like the questions that I'm getting at the end of the workshop or whatever. And I would have gone a different direction sooner. But it wasn't until end of 2021 that I hosted my first paid workshop. And then I really did it for another couple of years and was like, okay, these work every time. And they work. At that point, I was already helping my clients who were working with me to transform their business. They were implementing workshops too. It was working for them. And I was like, okay, I really love doing this with people. It's working again and again and again. And I have a whole program where I take people from start to finish through basically leveraging paid workshops as the primary sales system in their business.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so you mentioned with the client who's, I love that you brought up that she's like in this testing mode.
Yeah.
Because I think so, again, we get really caught up in like, okay, I'm making this decision and like, let it be more of a playground. But I wanted to ask if someone's like, okay, there are a few different ways I could kind of, a few different topics I could use to like get in and see what resonates. You said she might like do the team dynamics and she might do like money mindset, like whatever. If she does the first one and it's like, nope, not a win, how long would you recommend that she wait? Like, is she just going to wait like 4 weeks and do another paid workshop? Or is it like, if you just want to do another one next week, like go for it? Or like, what's that look like?
So this is more of a question of how long do I recommend for a promotion phase, and then how much time do you need to prep that content?
Yeah.
I typically recommend at least a 2-week promo period. I don't recommend like a month. I feel like that tends to be too long for people. 3 weeks is okay. A week is usually too short unless you have a big audience who's like hot and ready for this topic. Then okay, 1 week might be fine. But for me, and most of my clients, 2-week promotion period tends to work pretty well. And then you want to prep that content. I've had clients do this with basically no significant online presence before, and they still are able to do this. I had a client who came in, she had no presence at all, focused on the niche that she wanted to launch something in. And within 2 weeks, she hosted a workshop and sold a $30,000 offer on the back end. So she came in and did it pretty quick, but she also had a personal network of people who are a right fit to attend that workshop. So it's more about how much time do you need to prep whatever promotion that it's going to be.
I'm curious if you, like with the testing of the workshop, where, like how much grace is there for like, oh, I ran this workshop and only 5 people signed up. How do you know if it's like, well, the topic or the audience wasn't there versus I didn't have enough promotion time, or, oh, it's like August and all of my moms are going back to school and so it was busy.
Yeah. So there are a lot of variables, and I typically do recommend hosting if you feel really great about the topic, and if you get 5 signups for one that, now if it's all your besties that you're like, you're not going to join my program anyways or whatever, or those past clients just tend to I've had this happen as my offers have evolved. The clients who I worked with back in the day when my prices were very different and my offers served a different client, sometimes when I host something that's like a little lower ticket, just a way back in to get a little hit of AnnMarie, if you will.
Yes.
They always show up, but I know what I'm offering now isn't necessarily the best fit for them, and that's totally fine. So if you can look at the anecdotal data, especially if you don't have 150,000 people in your audience, which I do not. I have a very small but mighty audience, and kind of make some of those educated guesses about what people were really thinking. So if there are people you don't know at all, that's a pretty good idea that this is a relevant topic. Maybe you just need a bit more promotion time, or it is, back to school time or whatever, where it was just kind of busy. You can also send a follow-up, a survey that you've probably seen people send at the end of launches, where it's like, why didn't you sign up for this? And you could do this to, most of the email softwares out there will let you do something like everyone who opened the email that you sent, you're just going to send it to those people and say, hey, what stopped you from signing up? the time, the topic. I meant to and I just forgot, and get data on that. So you could easily do something like that. Every strategy requires refinement. So if you're coming in and you're expecting like, oh my gosh, I'm going to come in and I'm going to absolutely nail 100% of the decisions that I make about this on the first run, and I'm never going to change anything ever again. That's just not business. It's just not life. Like,
nope.
So you want to come in with the mentality that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get paid to test something, because you are. Most clients who are hosting a workshop in the 97 to 27 range ballpark, even with super small audiences, I'm talking 500 Instagram followers, they're getting pretty solid, like somewhere around 20 signups, sometimes 30. Like, they're getting those signups. So you're getting paid on the front end to test the thing.
Yeah, I love it. I love me some data and some service.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. What is one thing, I mean, there's probably a lot of things, but what's one thing that people should do after they run a paid workshop?
Not ignore the people who sign up for your paid workshop. So that may mean you have a sales sequence that goes out to them selling your bigger thing. That may mean you're sending them a survey. Maybe you're even, if it's a small group of people that you're really looking to make a pivot towards, and say you had 10 signups, there's no reason you couldn't offer to chat with all 10 of those people. And the insight, I did this, oh my gosh, for maybe like, I have lost count of, I need to go back and count the number of paid workshop I've hosted. I know it's more than 15 at this point. For my first at least 10, I always offered follow-up calls on the back end of my workshops, partially because yes, it did lead to higher conversion rates at that point in time, but also it was really, really great market research for me. So I understood better, like, where they were coming from. And it's also how I made the decision to create a program around paid workshops itself, because, like I said, initially I didn't have a program on it. I didn't really have any offer other than my workshop about paid workshops. So I was just selling my bigger mastermind. So I'd get, a couple people stepping in to my mastermind from that, but not the volume of conversions that I was used to. Short answer is, don't ignore your people. Don't ignore the people who registered, because they are committed. They are committed to solving a problem. And yes, they're going to get wins from your workshop, but there's deeper places you can go with them.
Okay, I said it was my last question, but now I have another one. With those follow-up calls, I'm curious if you positioned it in your mind. Was it just like, oh, I'm just connecting and just kind of chatting? Did you tell them I'll answer one question for you, or I have questions for you, or I'm assuming they weren't really positioned as obviously a sales call, but it was more connection or questions, or how did you position it to the people?
So I always have a reason that you want to get on the follow-up call, something we're going to do that goes beyond it. So one of the most recent workshops I hosted was basically creating a life-proof roadmap for the year, using AI to help you do that. And then in the follow-up call, I said, we're going to, you're probably noticing, because AI is not perfect, some gaps or things that need to be rearranged, or maybe you forgot some vacations you want to take that it didn't account for. We will look at your roadmap specifically on this call and determine how we can refine it, also using AI, so that it actually feels really good, so that you feel like it's really supportive. But yeah, I would say the goal is really, because we're running businesses, right? So in the follow-up, we really do want to have an eye on, okay, who really is wanting the deeper support. The people who feel like they got what they needed from the workshop, they're probably not going to be that interested in having deeper conversation with you afterwards anyways. They feel like they got what they need. They'll keep following you on Instagram or wherever. And then, if you host another workshop that's relevant to them, great, they may sign up. But if that's their vibe, then they're probably not going to engage that much further. And I definitely have that where if I do offer a follow-up call, there's a certain percentage of people who they won't book them because they felt like they got what they needed from the workshop itself. So
yeah. Nice. This was so good, as per usual.
Yeah, this is so fun. I could talk about this stuff all day. So
yeah, where can we connect with you online? We'll learn more about workshops, maybe attend one, all the things.
Yeah, so the main place that I hang out online is definitely Instagram. I'm Ask AnnMarie Rose, so ASK, and then my name. I also hang out a lot on Threads. My website, as we've chatted about, is a work in progress. I got some new things coming this summer with that, but I have an everything page that's linked from my website, which is AnnMarieRose.com, that has all the things that I'm offering.
Nice. I will have all the links to that in the show notes, but thank you again for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Are you a squiggle or a square? Go to justcreatives.com/quiz to find out where your brand ends up and find out what a square or squiggle even means. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to leave a review or share it on Instagram, and tune in next week for another episode.